नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Ritpundari, verse number 6, please. Pardon me. Ritpundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam acintyam avyaktam anantarupam shivam prashantam amritam brahmayonim tamadi madhyanta vihinamekam vibhum chidananda rupam adbhutam. So in this verse number 6, this is the contemplation upon the contemplator. Very good way to summarize that. To title it, sorry, not summarize, but to title it. Is the contemplation upon the contemplator, it's himself, herself, itself. And here the difficulty is that we can contemplate on things that we can visualize through our mind, but to contemplate on something which I cannot visualize requires a very special kind of skill and technique, if you may. We cannot call it technique per se, but something like that. Approach, a different approach towards understanding the contemplator itself, which is not something which can be objectified, as we have seen. So there, it doesn't mean that it cannot be done. It just means that it is very different, and it has to be understood to be done in that way, in a very subtle, careful way. And I think the way I see it for myself, that the fact that the self is avyaktam, that's a very key word in my mind. Key word in my mind is avyaktam. Avyaktam means one which is unmanifest. And I remember learning this with Swami Dayanandji And what was really revealing to me at that time, and since then in my further contemplation and practice and so on, this has become more of a reality for me, is the fact that I'll explain that in a couple of different ways. There is a contrast between what happens and what does not happen but is. So we should carefully understand this. See, what happens is that, I'm using the word what happens is this, in the same context of the word happen. We are used to seeing things that happen. Happen means which are noticed by us, that are visible to us, not by the eyes alone, but just that are objectified by us in whatever sense organs that we have. That's what things happen. You can say what happened was some incident you can talk about. And so really life is a series of happenings. Series of happenings. In the morning class, the Brahma Sutra class, in the last week, we had talked about the thing called Tatastha Lakshana. Even today's class, we summarized it, and that is Tatastha Lakshana. So Tatastha Lakshana means that how do you define the self that we are trying to understand? One way to define it as in relative terms. And so we saw the example in this last class of a river which is continuously flowing. And it looks like a solid piece of water. You can objectify it, and from a distance where you don't see the waves flowing, you can just looks like a steady body of water. But if you're just sitting on the banks of a river, observing the fast flowing river, what you find is that it's a series of happenings, series of waves that are flowing. Especially if you go to the upper reaches where the river is coming down from, especially if you go to Rishikesh, for example, it really is a very pleasant sight to see how the water gushes down continuously. So even though it is changing, it looks as though it is steady from a distance. But now looking at it from close by, you have an idea about the flow of the river contrasted with you who is sitting unmoving on the bank of the river. This is a picture. So the way to look upon life with the help of Vedanta is exactly the same way. You are watching a flow of time, flow of events, flow of happening things They are continuously happening. And from a casual way, equivalent to a distant way of looking at the river, looking at a casual way, the whole world seems to have some substance. It has some substantiality. It seems to be firmly and constant place. But on closer examination, you find that the world is really just a continuous flow, period. And in fact, the Sanskrit word for the world is called Jagat. Beautiful word, very apt. So the word Jagat can be broken down into Jayati Gacchati iti Jagat. So Jayati, the first letter of the word Jayati is Ja, and the first letter of the word Gacchati is Ga, and the term means that it is the way it is. So the word Jagat means one which is, as soon as it is born, it is gone. Born and gone. Many of the acharyas talk about this. Born and gone. Born and gone. There's exactly like a river. So here's the thing. What I will now connect it back to what I started with. That we are used to seeing things that are happening. The world is a happening. My life is a happening. Things happen. And yes, there is some conclusion that it is, even though it is moving, it is there, just like a river is a body of water. But here's the thing, I am only dealing with things that happen. See, my entire life consists of only dealing with things that are happening. Right? The opposite of that is that I am not concerned with things that don't happen. So sometimes if somebody says, what if this were to happen? And depending upon your mood, either you can join in this reverie, or you can say, let's not talk about things that could happen. We've got enough things that are happening. I'm not concerned about things that don't happen, okay? Let's not worry about it. You can say that. So the fact of the matter is that really speaking, other than just musing about it, we are not concerned with things that do not happen. So this is exactly what we were talking about, I think in the last class or maybe a couple of classes ago, that the way we look at things in the life is that there is a two-level reality. Either they are there or they are not there. So either things happen in that way, things happen or they don't happen. This is how we look at it. Okay? This, in fact, is at the root of our problems in life. This is what our spiritual wisdom points out. This way of looking at things, if you were to take it to its end point, is the root of our problems. How? What do you mean by that? That you ignore what doesn't happen and you are only concerned with things that happen. There is actually a third variety. Just like we saw that there was 3 levels of reality, not just is and is not, there is something in between which pushes the definition of what is to a different level altogether. And that was Mithya. So you have asatyam or tucham, means not there at all. And then you have Mithya in the middle, which seems to happen. And then there is something which is satyam. And this is what I wanted to just point out in terms of this way of looking at things. So, as I said earlier, it creates a problem where my mindset is I am not concerned with things that don't happen. I'm only concerned with things that happen. There is actually a third variety. Not even a variety, a third reality, a single reality, not a variety. That's not the right word to use. A single reality, which is I don't happen, but I am. You see the importance of this. I am different from things that happen, but I am not a non-entity. And this is what I was saying earlier to close the loop on that. My not paying attention to something which does not happen is a problem of life. I ignore it. And the way I ignore it, I don't understand it, I don't inquire into it, number one. Number two, I am busy dealing with things that happen. I'm not concerned with things that don't happen. Because my mindset is, why should I be worried about things that don't happen? As I was saying earlier, there is a huge exception to that. I am one that does not happen. And opposite to what I think, which is things that don't happen don't matter to me. If I inquire into it, I just come to the opposite conclusion. The thing that really matters is the one that does not happen. It's kind of like, you're sitting on the bank of the river, as we were saying earlier in that example, and you are just looking at the flow of the water, and you're enjoying it, and you're only concerned with it, and you're looking at things that flow in it, sometimes logs of wood, other things, some branches of tree. Occasionally you may have a swimmer, and you're all just enjoying it and looking at the flow of the river and so on. And you're never really thinking about yourself, who is sitting there not affected by the flow. That, of course, doesn't happen because sooner or later you are much more concerned about yourself, your own body and your mind and your clothes and so on. But in this case, looking at this reality, you are oblivious of the one that doesn't happen but is really solid and worth looking at. The only thing which is worth looking at. Why is it worth looking at? Because the things that happen don't last. And it's not worth your attention. Your attention should be something which is you, which is going to be you, which always has been you, which is glorious, which is all these things. We will briefly look at it. Shivam, Prashantam, Amritam, Brahmayonim, Tam, Adimadhyanta Vihinam, Ekam, Vibhum, Chidananda Rupam, Adbhutam. That is what's worth looking at. Not the trivial world. Which has no substance. But we are involved with it because it is happening. This is what we are used to doing. Here it says, wait. It's something much more profound to look at, which doesn't happen. So instead of ignoring something that doesn't happen, you should admire something that doesn't happen, which is always there, which is you. In my mind, this word avyaktam is the key. Avyaktam means one which is not manifest, but very much there. You see the problem, the problem that our thinking gives us, that we are only concerned with things which is vyaktam, vyaktaman, which is manifest. And we ignore something which is avyaktam. Which is achintyam. And which is ananta rupam. So let's just as a revision of that last, the third line of this verse. All of this is pointing out on the same thing. Hrit pundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam achintyam. Chintya means that it's not subject to being examined in the same way that we normally examine. Not normally, we do examine everything which is vyaktam, which is manifest, because that's all that we are doing. But this is avyaktam. And then, I don't think we spent much time on this, Ananta Rupam. Swami Viditatmananda has explained the Ananta Rupam very much, which is infinite forms. So, infinite form means, how can that be? It's something which is, it seems like a paradox. You're saying which doesn't change. It should be one thing. And in fact it is Kaivalam. That's why the word of the Upanishad, Kaivalyam, oneness. How can oneness be Ananta Rupam, all these various things? Because the Ananta Rupam is the Mithya. So this reminds me of this humorous incident which apparently happened. It really did occur. This reminds me of that. So Swamiji was Swami Dayanandji was giving some talks in UK. Usually he doesn't go to UK. He hasn't had much time to go to United Kingdom, England. But he went there one time, with some series of talks as he recounted. And one of his students who was really taken in by the talks and really was enjoying it and was a jeweler, an Indian jeweler living in London. He had made a lot of money and he had a jewelry, gold, and he used to deal with gold things only. And so he was the gold jeweler. So one time after the talks, he talked to Swamiji and he said, Swamiji, I'd like you to, I want to show you my shop. Please come. And I would be delighted if you can come and bless it. So Swamiji said, okay, I'll come. So he invited him there. And he said, Swamiji, as my Guru Dakshina to you, what I'd like you to offer is you pick one thing out of the shop and I'll give it to you. Whatever you pick, I'll give it to you. So the shopkeeper was thinking, I have got so many different golden ornaments and Swamiji will be happy to take something like maybe a necklace or whatever. So Swamiji said, really, just one thing? He said, yes, Swamiji, one thing, whatever. So Swamiji said, okay, I will take gold. So the shopkeeper said, say that again, Swamiji. What did you want? He expected him to say, I want that one. You take that out of the glass case or something. He didn't say that. He says, I just want gold. So I guess everybody started laughing because gold means, what does gold mean? Gold means everything in the shop. So this is the meaning of Ananta Rupam. Ananta Rupam means of endless forms. That means you have jewelry that can be made in any form, but it is still gold. The gold never loses its identity, no matter how it is made up of any kind. This is an interesting thing. You know, this word Mithya we talk about. So Mithya is a very technical word. I think I mentioned that to you. Like a mouse is a technical word in the context of computers, of laptops, especially laptops, even in the desktop also. I have one, so I use the mouse for the desktop also. So the mouse is a very technical word. Mithya is a very technical word. How is it a technical word? Mithya means one which has all the characteristics of Satyam except its own independent reality. So observe those words carefully. It has all the characteristics of Satyam, but does not have an independent existence. So for instance, this is interesting to see. If you look at a piece of jewelry, then you can say a ring, a golden ring, let's say. So the golden ring is, there is a name for it which is called ring, and it has a certain form. I don't wear rings, so I can't show it to you. But it has a certain form, which is, it has a hollowness, it's circular. You know what a ring is. So it has a name, it has a form. But the interesting thing is, look at this. The weight of the ring is the weight of gold. If the ring was made out of paper mache, it would be very light. It would be made of gold, then the weight of... So the ring doesn't have its own characteristics like weight. The shine of the golden ring is the shine of the gold. How interesting. There's a dispute between the gold and the ring. The ring cannot walk away from it. It is totally dependent. In fact, the ringness is one of the characteristics of gold. Similarly, when we say Shakti, Maya Shakti, so the feminine Shakti that we see in the world, the Devi, so the Shakti means various kinds of Shakti, not just one Shakti. In fact, sometimes we look upon Devi as something like a form in the temple, like Lakshmi or Saraswati, Durga. We look upon that as a Devi, as a Shakti. But really speaking, the Shakti is in everything that happens. And we have to really give our prayers to the Shakti in order to gather the blessing of the Shakti. So one example that is our muscles, the muscles in the body, as one example of everything really, but muscles is a Shakti. If some were to cut this body into, and you see, like a surgeon, some muscles, like sometimes these surgeries have to be performed where muscles have been torn and you have to put them back. So they're looking at muscles inside. It's a good thing that we don't have to look at muscles. We'll probably faint from when we see blood and so on and so forth. But anyway, if you were to look at the muscle is a Shakti. And to give your prayers to it's a Devi. So there is a Devi which governs the functions of muscles. So in order for you to pray to that Devi, you have to figure out what that Devi likes. And what the muscles like is exercising. You have to keep it in shape. If you don't visit it and keep it, visit it means if you don't keep it in shape, it atrophies. That's what's happening to me. I haven't had the time, but my arms and so on, they have lost their muscles. I'm of course getting old, but I should really be exercising more. I do. I exercise my heart, but I don't exercise my arms, and so these have become much smaller. And so this is this is giving the prayers to the Devis. Anyway, going back to what we were saying earlier, that I am very concerned with things that happen and deal with them on that basis. All the Devis, all the Shaktis. But the Shakti belongs to the Purusha, to the person. Just like the golden ornaments are not separate from it. So they are borrowing all the qualities from the gold. So that was so Swamiji said, I just want gold. And you cannot just give away the whole shop to this visiting Swami. So so that's the definition of the Mithya. This is what I was saying. The definition of Mithya is that the entire set of things that happen, including muscles, all the devatas, all the devis, all responsible for it, all the responsible for the functionality of it, they are nothing, but they belong to nothing but the Atma. They are the Shakti of the Atma. They are not independent. They are not independent. And this is what I'm all concerned with, are things that are Mithya. So, anything which is happening is Mithya. That's another truth that you could write down. Anything that happens is Mithya. Thereby, anything which is Vyakta, which is visible, is Mithya. Anything that happens is Mithya. And I do not happen. And I need to be appreciated as one who is solid, looking at the flow of things in the world. Solid, unmoving, worth knowing, worth cultivating, worth appreciating. So, opposite of one that is ignored has been ignored up to this point because it doesn't happen. It is just the opposite. Once I start exploring the glories of one that doesn't happen but is Satyam, my life takes on a different direction, different meaning. That is the beginning of the end of my problems. This is a fact. And this beautiful verse is pointing all of that out. Now we can see why the avyaktam is worth knowing. What am I missing So let's look at some of them. Let's look at it. It's not. So the Atma it's not just a simple concept, not an academic kind of a thing. It's worth looking into and to understanding and becoming eligible to do so, because it is something which is very subtle but so important. That's the self. That's the Achintyam Avyaktam Ananta Rupam. And in some ways that line defines it with the additional understanding of I don't happen. Okay, so that's the definition. Now if you want to look at what is the vastu, what is the entity, we would not call it a thing. See, I wouldn't call Atma as a thing, because a thing is one which is jada, which is not live. But a vastu, word vastu is used in Sanskrit, and the maybe way to translate that would be an entity. And so the entity has to be appreciated by all its glories, and that is now given in the next section of the verse number 6, starting with Shivam. Shivam. So Shivan means one which is a blessing. What is meant by a blessing? Let's look at the word blessing. It's a blessing. You know, when you say, I'm blessed, what do you mean by I'm blessed? So the word blessing would means that gives me joy, relief, happiness, goodness, all the opposite of something which would be tension, badness, fear, anxiety. Everything the opposite of that is a blessing. Blessing means a state of mind. This is just a state of mind, even though the Shivam itself is nothing but the Atma itself. It's not a state of mind, but it gives a state of mind which is tranquil, happy, satisfied, fearless, all those good things. That is what is meant by a blessing. So this entity which is avyaktam, all these other things, achintyam, avyaktam, ananta rupam, is not just a concept, not just something to kind of just think about and that's it. It is the form of what I want in my life. That's what the meaning of word Shivam is. And everybody, not just Hindus or Muslims, or it is the very innate blessing which is our nature, but we are We don't understand it, which is hiding from us. Hrit Pundarikam. It is Virajam Vishuddham Shivam. And so here the word Shivam is the blessing quality of Ishvara. So you can say Shiva as Ishvara, but here Shiva as what does it mean to me? So in fact, in all these words like Rama and Krishna, all these words, Shiva. So let's look at all three of those words: Rama, Krishna, and Shiva. The three most, and Vishnu. Let's take Vishnu as fourth one. Let's say these four. Let's just look at all these four words. So all these four words have, so it's interesting when we do, when we do the word, the triple Shanti. So we say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So there are three of them, as you know by now. I hope you know by now, but you should know by now, that these three Shantis refer to the three different things that are important to me. So one of them is what is called Adi Daivam. Adi Daivam means that just like the Devis we saw, the muscle, the bones, the Devi for bones, Devi for blood. Every entity that I am concerned with has a presiding deity called Devi or a Devata. Okay? So these are the Adi Daivam. These are entities that affect me because I am made up of them. This is number one. Then the second one is Adi Bhutam. Adi Bhutam means the one who I am directly dealing with. And I'm dealing with food, solid objects like the table, people, animals. Talking of animals, what a funny, interesting thing. So for the last couple of days we have seen, we live in this kind of like a foresty area, and it's full of rats and all kinds of animals. And this is their dwelling place. We are actually encroaching on them. And but they try to come in from all directions. We've had so many problems with rats. So just in the last couple of days, they found there's a new way they enter the home. And it's as though they are inside the home. In the morning, I could tell when I got up early. In fact, it was during the night that I could hear them. But I said, you know what? I have a class to teach tomorrow. I just kept on sleeping. But as soon as I got up and make a cup of tea for myself, this guy was scratching and making all kinds of noise. So I tried to disturb him, and he would keep quiet for a while. Then he will start again. And ultimately, because I do meditation every morning, I could not sit there and do meditation. So after my tea, I have to go upstairs, close the door, and do my meditation. Because this guy he was just too noisy for me to ignore. So we have to deal with him. I don't know. We have to figure out how did he come in? It's he's underneath the floor or what? Where is he? It's like inside the house itself, not even in the attic. Anyway, this is what is called Adi Bhutam. Various animals, people, and so on. Then the last one is Adhyatmikam. So Adhyatmikam means the one that are inside of me. And so this is where all of the bodily functions, the prana functions, and adhyatmikam. So all of them are really my concern. So now we can look at it. We can look at things that are different from me and also how they affect me, because they are really having an effect on everything that I'm made up of. As I said, for example, you can look upon, just to give you that example, you can look upon the muscles, the Devi of the muscles, or you can look at it, my muscles. So as the Devi of the muscles, I have to be cognizant of the fact that the Devi of the muscles requires a certain kind of puja. And that puja means using it. Either you use it or you lose it. That's the Devi's puja. The Devi of the blood is slightly different. That means you have to keep it pure. Don't put some wrong food into your body that spoils the blood. That is the Devi of the blood. But so the Adhyatmika view is that's me, how it affects me. So that's how the three Shantis are. So there we saw that all of them have an effect on the Mithya that I take myself to be, but has no effect on the Atma. Why is that the case? It is like saying that the ornaments have no effect on the gold. They are at a different level altogether. Gold is at a higher level of reality than the ornaments which are dependent on it. So similarly, here also, the understanding of one which is non-happening, which is avyaktam, but has some glorious qualities. Just like the gold has glorious qualities, that it is free to lend it to any of the ornaments that wants to borrow it. Excuse me. So that is what is Shivam. So now if we look at the four different Devatas, that's what I was talking about. I didn't quite finish it, so let me go back to them. Rama, Krishna, Shiva, and Vishnu. Okay? So let's take Rama. Rama is both a Devata, which is Adi Daivam, but also very personal to each one of us, which is Adhyatmika. How? Rama as a Devata is well known amongst the Hindus as one who espouses a dharma. And dharma means one who is very loyal to his father. His father said, I have given a promise to my wife that you will be banished for 14 years. So he said, no problem, sir, I'll go. And while he was in the forest, his wife was captured by this bad guy called Ravana. And his duty was to extract her back, and he won. So he's a very dharmic person, very loyal person. This is the outside Rama. What is the inside Rama? Inside Rama is the one which is in Sanskritam called Ramante Asmin iti Rama. Ramante Asmin iti Rama. Ramante Asmin means any sense of joy that you dwell in and you like to dwell in, sense of peace and happiness, that sense of peace and joy is Rama. So it is, you don't have to be a Hindu to appreciate Rama. If you are a human being, we all have the same characteristic, more or less. You may like coffee, I may like tea, but after a cup of coffee, you may like Starbucks, or you may like Pete's, or you may like something else. Whatever it is, but after having a cup of coffee, you feel good. That feeling of goodness, is called Rama. And similarly on Krishna, which is Akarshate iti Krishna, the one that attracts you. Anything that attracts you, one you want to go towards, is called Krishna. Vishnu. Vishnu means one where you are always present. You're not away from yourself, which is the truth about ourselves. We are always there, but we seem to be isolated through the body. I'm only here. You are really everywhere. And how that is a very pleasant feeling. I'm memorized, I am present. Anyway, that's more subtle. We'll have to leave it at that. This is Krishna. Shiva, similarly. So there is a Lord Shiva, Ishvara, but then the blessing inside me, the sense of blessing, is Shiva. So that's what it means. So when you talked about avyaktam, avyaktam means that the quality of avyaktam, the one that doesn't happen, is Shivam. Is Shivam. It is in the form of blessing. All the things that the blessing means, this is what it is. Prashantam. Prakarshena Shantam. Shantam. Shantam means peaceful. Peaceful. Peacefulness means one where you are okay the way you are. You don't want to change. That is the definition of peace. You know, when you say, I'm at peace with it, that means that I'm okay with it. There is nothing else that I need desire. Desire is the opposite of peacefulness. You feel that I need to, I'm not completely okay, I need to do something. I need to acquire something. I want to go somewhere. It's interesting. If you look at, you take a vacation, and we just analyze the very process of vacationing. Vacationing means that you feel the need to vacation, because you can ask somebody, "Hey, why?" This is what happens. Everybody just asking. So, any trips are you planning to take? He says, "Yes, I need to go somewhere." You can ask the person, "Why do you want to go somewhere?" "I don't know. I just feel like it'll be nice to go there." Okay, fine. If you analyze on a piece of paper all the things that you have to do to vacation, you have to think about it, you have to desire, you have to do some research, then you start to implement it. You need to look to see airline fares, and these days whether you're going to be quarantined or not, and will I get my refund if the flight is cancelled? All those kinds of things happen. Then you have to go to the airport. Series of things. This is all vacation. Are you peaceful during that? No, I'm not peaceful, but I want to do it, all of that, because I want to be peaceful, prashantam. See, anything we want to do is for prashantam. So I'm doing all those kinds of things. And then let's say you go to Hawaii. Okay, so you go to Hawaii, it's very expensive, it's not an easy thing to do, and you do that, and then plane is late, and all kinds of things happen. Then you go to the hotel, and you get up in the morning, and what do you want to do? You just want to lie down, put sunscreen on, and lie down next to the pool and just read a book. And while you're reading a book, you will put the book down, and now you are at peace with yourself. You can even close your eyes, you can even go to sleep, or just observe the scene. There is nothing else that you want. And pretty soon you cannot go there because you're hungry, and so now you have to get some food, and you have to get up. Moments, all I'm saying is that the entire scheming of going somewhere is so that for a few moments you are peaceful. You don't want anything. This is called prashant. And what we don't realize, this is exactly part of the discovery of the avyaktam, the one that doesn't happen, is that the nature of the avyaktam is prashantam, peacefulness. Do I ignore that? No, I'm not peaceful. I want to go somewhere. Okay, go somewhere. But at the end of that, just for a short time, same thing happens for a short time you're peaceful. Same thing happens when you go on a pilgrimage. So you go to Char Dham, and you go to this place and that, and in the end, you go and visit the shrine, and you close your eyes, and for a short time you're peaceful. Then you feel like you have now visited the place of God. You're very happy, and you're peaceful. And in fact, that peacefulness is yourself. Isn't it? Can ever be peacefulness be different from you? No. It's interesting. It's very so one of our relatives uh, on my wife's side. So they had a daughter who's she's in a Hindu family, and she went to a college, and there she met a boy who happened to be Christian and invited her to come to the church. And anyway, it's a long story. She decided she wants to become a Christian. So her mother was very upset. She said, you know, we are born Hindus and everybody else in our family is a Hindu. Then how come she wants to be a Christian? Wouldn't that be different from us? She doesn't have anything against Christianity, but she just felt that it would be a very big difference in the way the family would be. She won't go to the temple with us and so on. And she asked me if I can talk to her, which I did. This is a long time ago, 25 years ago. And what I found was that this girl was really, she wanted very much to become a Christian. And in just probing her and so on, what I came to the conclusion was that the peacefulness that she found in going to the church was something new to her, and she really loved it. So as you know very well, if you go to temples, Indian temples, it is noisy, it's not very clean, and it is chaotic. And especially if you take the kids there, they are used to doing it, but you don't find any peacefulness in the temple in general. You might, but as you're an adult you might, but not as a child. Whereas this young girl, I kind of made that conclusion that what is it that attracted her? Because I asked her, have you studied it? Have you studied the Bible? She had to a little extent, but not much. What I concluded was she went to the church, and these beautiful churches are just absolutely marvelous. Tall ceilings, quiet, peaceful, and the organ music. Music is always just very, makes us peaceful. Made her experience very peaceful, and she loved it. And so then what happens, of course, is that you see, if you are friendly to a Christian or something, they'll say it is because of Christ. And so you make that connection that I am very peaceful and I like it. This is called prashantam. And then you make the connection that the reason you don't realize the reason you are prashantam is because you are sitting in a nice, cool place with organ music. And the peacefulness is yours. It might belong to Christ, I'm not disputing that, as a devata. But really, adhyatmikam, it is you. You don't realize that, but you like it. So in that sense, becoming a Christian is really sort of discovering your own prashanta. So this is what it means. Shivam prashantam. And then comes the word amritam. Amritam. Amritam means where there is no fear, no possibility of death, there is no possibility of an end as a limit. There's no limit, there's no end. Why? Because that is the very nature of the Atma. Because what ends, what can end, is the one which is made up of those elements that can decay. That can end. But if you're not made up of things that can be ended, you cannot end. This is what needs to be discovered. This is what we are missing when we ignore the non-happening vastu. Amritam. So we have to really look at it, we have to examine more things. I'm just giving you an introduction yet. This is not a complete explanation. Amritam. Brahma yonim, next word, because I want to, I don't think I'll be able to finish it today. I was hoping to, but we spent a lot of time discussing the non-happening aspect of it, which is good. I think it was useful, but didn't finish all the, we'll continue to do that. I mean, this is the way I'm teaching. It's not just taking a word and then explaining and going to the next one. I'm just giving you some ideas that the way I look at it, and with some explanation, with some experience and so on. Brahma yonim. Brahma yonim is the one which is the most one which is not experienced per se. Don't know why this particular word was used. Brahma yonim means it can be done this way, which means that this is the yonim means the where. How does it? Yeah. The origin of the Creator. Yeah, so the way to do that, Brahma yonim, means that where it is, what is the essence of the Creator? See, it is the essence of creation, you can say. Not of the create. Again, you can do the same thing. You can either do it as a Devata, Ishvara, or Adhyatmika as yourself. So let me just finish I won't do any more, so I'll close the book. So Brahma yonim here means the essence of creation. The beginning, there is no beginning because there is no creation. One which is Amritam, which is always there. There is no beginning, no end, but one which is the very essence, or you can say one which is the very beginning of the creation. In that sense, the beginning of an ornament is the essence of the ornament, which is gold. You see? And this essence the of the creation can be looked upon either from God, Ishvara, or from the human being. Either one is correct, because the world as I see is born in me. And it exists in me. As we will see this more and more clearly as we proceed to study. These are tall words. The whole world is born in me? Yes. I know what we are saying. We are very cognizant of that. This is not an ordinary thing. And it stays with me, within me, and it's going to disappear within me? Yes. And the example is that of a dream. Just like you have the entire dream that was born in you, it plays in you and disappears. And according to our Shastra, even our waking state is nothing but a giant dream. A long dream, not just a giant, but a long dream. It had a beginning, it kind of frightens us or makes us happy or whatever, and then is gone. And we are still the same. Unmanifest Prashantam, Shivam, Brahma Yonim. This is the meaning of these verses. These are not, of these words in the verses, these are not simple words, but they have to be really unfolded in a way that really makes some sense to us. So our attempt is to do so. So with that, I'll close the class today. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Sorry about clearing my throat all the time. Yeah, I'm finding my vocal cords for 3 hours of talking, they're beginning to complain a little bit, but it's not bad. I can deal with it. Disturbing to you a little bit. You're right, Shanti Kumar. Yes, I wasn't planning to, but I just think that you just do the explanation as you feel like it, and it just takes more time. So you're absolutely right. And we're not done yet, so we'll end up spending more than 3 classes on this one verse. Keshav says, ever auspicious, we normally think of Lord Shiva instantaneously. How to differentiate? So let me try to understand your question. I'm not sure that I understand. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying that we are saying Shivam as ever auspicious, but we normally think of Lord Shiva as a happening, as an instantaneously. Isn't this a a paradox, a conflict? If that's what you mean, I don't know if that's what you mean, but if that's what you mean, then yes, of course. What needs to be said is that you can appreciate Shiva as a deity that you can pray to, and that the result of that prayer will give you some peace right away. So this is what you would call instantaneous. Okay? And then of course it goes away after a while until you do it again or something. But yes, you're right. It's is not that difficult to bow to Shiva and to get the blessing immediately for a short time. But here what we're talking about is that an appreciation of the Atma, whose nature itself is auspiciousness, has no time, that's why it is Amritam, needs to be done. So really another way to say that is that right now we have an idea that Shiva is different from me, and therefore visits me if I do the right things. But on this understanding, Shiva is nothing but me. And all this time I just didn't see that. This is what we are doing. We have to appreciate that there is no difference between. So this is the finding of God. The God is really not different from you. It is you, but not recognized as such. When that happens, that is ever auspicious. So in that sense, there is no conflict between them. There was another question here. Sam Dillon, how do you spell the origin of creation? So Sam, I'm not sure what you mean by spelling. Oh, so it is Brahma Yonim is the spelling in Sanskrit. If you want the grammatical meaning, it would be the Brahma Yonim. So actually the word Brahma Yonim in this context is a little vague, subject to quite a bit of Brahma Yonim is the same word as the feminine part. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, the sexual organ of females is called yoni. Okay, and so that is called yoni because it is actually the origin of creation. So from a physical origin of creation, the sexual organ of females is called a yoni. But in a broader sense, the yoni is the very beginning of any creation. And so in that sense, the Shakti of Brahman is also a female creation, which is Maya Shakti. And the ability of the Maya Shakti to be a yoni to the entire set of experiences can be called Brahma Yoni. Brahma Yoni means Maya Shakti. In that sense, yes, it is similar to the concept of the female power to create. Yes. Shanti Kumar, let's see. The happening of standoff between Russia and NATO. How is it Mithya and is seen by us to be Satyam? Kindly. Happening of standoff between Russia and Russia. How is it Mithya and is seen by us the Satyam? So, anything that happens is short-lived. Is short-lived. So this standoff between Russia and NATO, it's a happening. It is a happening, and whatever happens, it may have some slightly longer-term repercussions, or may fizzle out. We don't know. But sooner or later, it kind of has an effect on us, but will be gone. Will be gone. And so this is true for everything. So the Satyam here would mean one which is never affected by it. Never affected by it. And so if you and I are affected by the standoff in terms of fears and so on, then that itself is also mithya. That self which appears in the state of mind of fear is also a state of mind which is a fear, which is mithya, sorry, not fear, which is mithya. Now, consider this. You are always you. That is the Satyam. And the reason you are always you is because even at night time, you are unaffected by this standoff or any other problems. Unaffected. That is you. So that is the Satyam. You see, if the problems were Satyam, they would be there with you all the time. But they are not. They come and go. In fact, they disappear during the night. But the consciousness which is you stays with you through the night, during the day, through all lives. There is no change whatsoever. That is the Atma. So that is the Satyam of any happening in the world. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I take your leave and we'll see you next week. Om.